It's a roadmap, but it is important that we look to this thing for guidance as we move our region forward.
Two of the other critical aspects of the plan are livable communities and human capital.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, in terms of between those two, which of those are you going to try to focus on, if you will, as you start taking the initial steps towards implementing the plan within Bridgeton Park and or the Southland region?
I really believe they're parallel issues.
Okay.
I don't think one can stand alone or one should be prioritized. When you're talking about livable communities, you talk about things like sustainability. Livable communities are communities where transportation is available, transportation to transit, availability of that. With the issue of human capital, when we talk about jobs, that's having the individuals or having the residents in our communities that are well trained. It speaks to the need for job training programs to make sure that our residents. So I really think that they're blended.
Okay.
You can't have one without the other, and they're both equally important.
So is the village ready to start, implementing and doing some of the things that the plan actually called for, or are you having to go through the educational process first more to get people aware? Where's the village right now in terms of taking any steps towards this right now?
For most municipalities, it's going to be a process,
Okay.
And it's where it starts is at the board level and staff and our various commissions. We have various commissions that can research the recommendations. Certainly from the planning perspective, it's critical that our planning commissions through all of our communities are versed on what this is about. When you talk about things like access to food is even mentioned this as an example.
Right.
We've determined that in our region 9% of the area, geographic area, is in what we call food deserts, which means that there's not close access to grocery stores. That, just as an example, might be a topic that can be tackled by a Parks and Recs department to address that and have community gardens, for example.
Okay.
So it is a process, and I think it's critical for municipalities to have that buy-in on whatever the topic is, and as in the manner in which most issues are advanced. For boards for final decision and consideration, it works its way up through staff and generally our advisory commissions. The advantage to that is that along the way we are getting buy-in from our staff,
Okay.
From our commissions, which are all volunteer residents,
Okay.
And that helps also to get the word out and
All
to
right.
communicate what's going on in the
So are
community.
you all going through a formal process of sort of adopting the Go to 20 plan from a philosophical standpoint, not from a standpoint of it being mandated, but
Yep.
from a philosophical standpoint for the town? So is that the first step?
Yeah, well, right. The first step is the phase that we're in now, which is in education.
Okay.
We recently formally launched this. I think it was just last month. We had a formal launch on this on the Go to 2040. So right now we're in the phase of letting the region know that this plan is out
Okay,
there.
the education process.
Right. With CMAP, with our staff, we want to ensure that as municipalities are taking as the leadership is digesting this, that we want to make available to municipalities resource people that can come out and talk to our boards about
Okay.
why this is significant. There's a tremendous amount of data there that's in the plan, so it is a lot to digest. But it is important that conceptually municipalities are buying into this, and that's really kind of the next phase. Right
Got
now,
it.
we're in the process of making municipalities in the region and the press know that this is available, and then we will be bringing it a more focused education program to our municipalities.
I see. So at this juncture in time, are you trying to get residents involved in the plan at all, or are you just doing it at a governance level first now, and then the residents will be the next step
Yeah,
in terms of educating, or is it a parallel process as well?
it's It's close. It's closely blended. Right now, we're in the promotional phase of the plan itself. The next step is going to be to have more engagement at a local level. But our first step is to get the word out through the COGs to the mayors, get the buy-in at the mayor level and at the board level, with the understanding of why this is important, because that type of direction should come from the municipalities, from the leadership. And then it will be to engage the residents in the process via our department heads and our commissions.
Okay, excellent. So as leadership, I mean, mayors are elected into office for 4 years in most cases. And there's no guarantee that, that they're there on long-term basis. How do you think that the Go to 20 plan can be institutionalized within your village and or any village? What do you think that village mayors should be thinking about in terms of, as they think about, not only promoting this, but actually putting it in motion from an ordinance standpoint and from a governance standpoint?
There's a couple of ways where it can be incorporated into the vision of a community, a long-term vision. Municipalities can do that via their strategic planning process, where they can identify as part of their vision many of the things that are in the Go to 2040. Municipalities can, and currently do now through zoning issues and planning issues and putting in place requirements for developments that come into town. Most zoning boards do that now. But they can certainly expand on that and codify those a lot of those issues and requirements and recommendations.
Okay.
Also through municipalities' comprehensive plans, they can put into place and make sure that, for example, open space is incorporated in any future development or even redevelopment.
Okay. Rick, one of the things that also that's very interesting about this plan is the call for the improvement of regional mobility, and that is an investment in the transit systems, freight systems as well, and making strategic investments. Now, one of the things that we alluded to earlier was the fact that the South Suburbs has, excellent highway systems that it's close to, railway for freight,
Yes.
as well as for resident transportation in terms of the metro lines. Is there anything that you think that this particular area within the region should be used for from a strategic standpoint when it comes to the mobility issue?
Yes, we've had a number of resources available in our region, and it's critical that we support it in terms of investment. One of the things that comes to mind for our region is the Southeast Service Line.
Okay.
That is going to complement the Metro line that is going into the city of Chicago now. We are positioned, we clearly have a need, and that's one example. We have existing transportation corridors within our region,
Right.
that are key assets. Rail, as you mentioned, also is another key component. So that positions us strategically to be in a very strong position for development, for economic development
Okay.
issues in terms of local economic development, but also in transporting our residents to those opportunities that are within the region. Someone that lives in Richton Park may not be employed by a company in Richton Park. They may be on the north or west suburbs, and it's important that they have the availability of transportation.
We only have a few minutes left, and one of the things that I wanted to just discuss with you is the call for, at least in terms of the plan, to address the taxing issues that some of the taxing disparities that exist throughout the region. And we know that Cook County probably has or does have the highest property tax rate of any of the other 6 other counties. What do you think your cog needs to do in particular to make sure that we balance that scale? Because we all know at the end of the day that if we go down this plan, down the road of approaching this plan, and we have the same property tax rates that we have in Cook County, that Cook County is not going to participate at an equitable rate. So what needs to be done to address that?
It's it's a very valid question, but it's very difficult to understand or to come up with a solution. There's no question that there is, in terms of property taxes, for example, there's a huge inequity between Cook County and many of the collar counties. It gives the collar counties definitely a leg up.
Sure.
When someone's looking to make that advantage. We've, over a period of time, we've come up with a number of programs that help to lower the property tax situation in Cook County.
Okay.
It is a huge challenge. It will probably require restructuring. I think there are some opportunities at the state level to shift some of that burden. It's something that we have historically supported through our Council of Government. I have the opportunity to chair the legislative committee for South Suburban mayors and managers, and we work on things and issues, and we try to advance and take positions on things that will benefit our region as a whole. And many of those parallel concerns of the region, the collar counties also. So there's no simple answer to that question. It's certainly a problem.
Sure.
It's something that has to be addressed. Exactly how we do that, I'm not sure. We understand where we want to get, and we want it to be fair and equitable.
Right.
But getting there right now is the challenge.
But it is on your COG's radar, though,
Absolutely.
that it has to be addressed, and
Yes.
that we should come up with some type of method, and maybe the new leadership at the county or new leadership within the state will help address that. I mean,
Yes.
because it is something that is, when you think about this plan, it's very nicely laid out. But if you have competitive disadvantages, out the blocks, then you're not going to fare as well as everyone else.
Absolutely, and that's why equity is such a critical component of this plan. It's got to be fair and equitable across the region. If we start out in the absence of that, it's very difficult to implement the plan.
Yeah, because one of the things also that's very fascinating is I think that there are assets, stronger assets in various areas within the counties that I hope that CMAP recognizes, and
Yes.
one may be the highway systems and the railway and our close access to railway, and take advantage of that, and
Yes.
it's in the openness of our land. So that's also a consideration. I hope that CMAP is taking and making sure that that's negotiated, because some people listening to this may be somewhat leery of this and say,
Yes.
well, we do have some disadvantages in terms of, and property tax is one of them, but making sure that equity voice is addressed is I think extremely important going forward.
Yes.
We got a couple of minutes left, and what I want to find out from you in terms of 2040. What's your crystal ball for 2040 in terms of how Richmond Park would look and how this region's going to look in 2040?
Well, I think the future is very bright for not only Richmond Park but for our region. 2040 is maybe a long way off, but when you're talking about a historical perspective, it's really just on the horizon. I think we have the opportunity to implement a lot of the recommendations from the planning perspective. I think it's going to strengthen our region. I think it's going to make the not only the Southland but the entire CMAP area a better area. I think it's going to be, and I think this will end up being a national model for municipalities, for large municipal areas across the country.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Rick, for being with us today. Your knowledge has been invaluable, and I'm sure that the viewing audience appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you very much for being with us today. I hope that you've found this informative. Again, please go to CMAP's website that you can find at www.cmap.com to get more information on the Go to 20 plan and get engaged. This is your future as well. So make sure that you take the first step in educating yourself about exactly what the Go to 20 plan is. And I thank you very much for being with us today. I'm Jeff Cohn of Suburban Issues.